It's so great to see all of you here this morning with us this morning. It is indeed a delight to be here with you as we arise together with excellence, as we arise together to face a new year, 2022. Good morning again. My name is Siobhan Lloyd, and I am your conference host for this morning. We have some surprises for you. We have some persons who will be joining us, who will be delivering some excellent nuggets that we can utilize as we understand the power of process. And I will tell you today that the power of process is such an intricate part of who we are and all that we do. It is never enough just to stay stagnant and to just feel that, listen, life is passing us by, but we have the power to change. We have the ability to move forward. We have what it takes to be successful, not only after what we have done in 2021, but look at what we've come through in 2020. And I encourage all of you to use the power that you have invested in you to strive for excellence. And listen, when we look at 2020 and 2021, it has been a process. It has been processing all of us. And we recognize that in that process, there may be pain. But if there is pain, what comes after pain? Some power. And I am so delighted that all of you on Facebook, as well as on Zoom, have joined us today to learn more about the power of process from these excellent guests that we have. And our guests include the Honourable Mario K. Bowleg, Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture. Also, we have Mr. Ricardo Deveaux, and of course, he is the Deputy Permanent Secretary at the Ministry of Education. We also have with us the esteemed Her Excellency Leslia Brice, and she is the ambassador to Caricom. What more can we say? I mean, there is so much for us to digest today. And I encourage you all to lean in. Relax if you have to, but lean in and get these nuggets for yourself to propel you toward your 2022 goals. As a human resources professional, I know the value of planning. And as the head of transformational consulting, I am passionate about transformation and change. So I like to give big shout outs to my CIBC colleagues. I was there as the former head of human resources for many years. Shout outs to my Toastmaster colleagues all over the world, particularly District 47 in the Bahamas and South Florida. And shout outs to even our Rotaract Sunset Club, Lauren, Latoya, Felix, David, Charles, and Rotarians everywhere continue to do the great work of service that you're doing in all of our communities. And today we have also on the line in our Zoom a prolific and dynamic co-host. He wants to be quiet, but I tell you, he is such an amazing person in the person of Mr. Jeffrey Beckles, who is the managing director of Island Pay, former president of the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and the Employers Federation, an enthusiastic golfer, an avid Rotarian, an ardent cyclist, passionate pastor, friend, and family man, winner of countless awards, one of which is the Arise Bridge Builder Award for 2020, recognizing the great work he is doing in paving the way and preparing a clear path for others to follow and succeed. I say welcome to you, Jeff. It is so great to have you with us today as well.
Good morning, Siobhan. Good morning, everyone. It is a privilege to be here, and we are looking forward to an exciting time today. So it is great to be with you all this morning.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you so much. And without any further delay, we are going into our first speaker who is here and ready to go. We're moving right on time. And I would like to just pause as we introduce the biography of Mario Bowleg, the Honourable Mario Bowleg, who is the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture.
The Honourable Mario Bowleg, Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture. For 25 years, Mario Bowleg has enjoyed a career in banking. Starting as the security doorman, he rose through the ranks and currently serves as Assistant Branch Manager at Commonwealth Bank. He is perhaps even better known for his achievements in sports leadership, coaching, and mentoring. His name is synonymous with basketball in the Bahamas. For 4 non-consecutive years, he was acclaimed as national champion and Coach of the Year. Long before he was elected as the current president of the Bahamas Basketball Federation, he has touched the lives of many, especially helping those who had become disenfranchised to seek education and careers which have helped them to grow into productive citizens. Many people might not know that he also plays the drums in his church, in which he is very active, and the trumpet with the Music Makers Junkanoo Group as the former deputy brass leader. Ladies and gentlemen, the Honourable Mario Bowleg, Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture.
Good morning, sir. How are you doing today?
Good morning. I'm great. It got me up early on a Saturday morning.
But you look no worse for wear. In fact, you look fantastic, sir. And we know that you are a man on the move. So
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes. So, we have to start. Your bio is somewhat of an abbreviated version of your process. And so the first question we wanted to ask of you, sir, is to describe to us what your process has been in getting to where you are today.
Well, it's been a process of determination, and it's not where you start, but it's where you finish, and where your heart desire and where you want to see yourself as time goes on. There always should be a process where you plan for your career and your future and what you want it to be. And then in some cases, I will put it this way: a man plans his way, but the Lord direct his path. And so even though I would have had some plans and direction where I would like to see my life go, I still think the Lord has directed me on the path in which he wanted me to be. And I think, again, starting from the passion of mentoring youths and having a passion for youths, and then a passion for basketball, using that as the vehicle to mentor and touch so many lives of so many individuals, and seeing their life progress from where they were to who they are today. And I can tell you, I have doctors, lawyers, and many professions of whom I've had coach, and are very intriguing, has a great impact on our society, I should say, today.
And I'm sure you've seen, go ahead, Jeff.
No, I wanted to just to take off from there, Minister. Obviously, you have arrived at a place today that you may or may not have seen 10, 15, 20 years ago, even when you started, as your introduction of your bio said, that you started at a very humble place. What was can you recall where the turning point was, where you would have seen yourself as perhaps being not just a member of parliament, but a policy leader in the country?
Well, Beckles, thanks for the question. I always felt that I had something to offer, Again, I don't think it was my desire to run in politics. It was never my desire. I had no intent whatsoever. At some point, I joined the Progressive Liberal Party men's branch. And from the day I walked into the door, the question was asked to me: you are a leader, outright leader, not one that was made, but one that we think was born, and the potential is in you. And what was my intent? And my intent was continue to serve my people, but I had no intention of going to frontline politics. Then I was asked of interest of it. And I can tell you this much, 3 persons along with the Lord made that decision for me. And they were the 3 women in my life. That was my daughter, my wife, and my mother. I went to them and I asked them if they could see me in frontline politics, because when you think about it, Jeff, if any 3 persons can feel the pain for me once you get in frontline politics, would be those 3 females. I can tell you that much.
Indeed.
So, them 3 on the initial stage did not agree. Of course, the youngest one, my daughter, was happy. She see the PR and all of that. So,
Right.
so that's what she was interested in. My wife and mother said no. And then I said, I've given them 3 months. And I said, pray about it. I asked them to pray about it, and I pray about it. And then I said, you know what, speaking to some persons who would have been, important in my life, those 3 came back to me before I came back to them and said, I think you should do it. I think you got something to offer to this nation, and you've been doing it free all along. It's time now you do it at a greater stage.
So the takeaway then, Minister, would be then using every stepping stone as an opportunity to prepare for the inevitability of opportunity then. And so, and I think that's great for our listening audience to appreciate, because as a young man, I was always taught, see life as a series of stepping stones. Take advantage of where you are and learn as much as you could learn, because you don't know what that next step will take. Great stuff. Thank you so much, Minister.
Yeah, that's true. That's facts. You hit the nail on the head.
Mm-hmm. And Minister, when you look at the persons who would have impacted you, you've impacted a lot of people, but I'm sure that there were people who really impacted you along the way in your banking career, growing up as a child. Who were your mentors? Who were those pivotal people that helped you in your process?
Well, I can firstly say that it first started off as my coaches. I could say persons like Jimmy Clark, Doug Collins, Sharon Storr, Charlie Softly Rubens, were those individuals who, who coached me from at a young age, who would have then put some discipline in me, taught me lifelong lessons that stick with me still to this day. And if I go into my banking career, I could proudly say that you were one of those persons who, knowing it or not, had a lot to do with guiding me in my early age stages at CIBC. I could have always picked up the phone and called you when challenges came, and you've always been stern as the HR manager at that time, and made sure we made the decision that was best, and not whether it was best for me or not, but you advised me in a proper way. And so persons like that, yourself, and then I could also say Troy Sands, Chandler Troy Sands, was one of my managers at Commonwealth Bank prior to me coming to CIBC. He was one of those persons who also too, he was the first person to say to me that every time you get paid, you must take at least $20 and put it up. And you do that for about 20 years. Time as you get old, you wouldn't know how much money you have in the bank, but you'll be able to retire. And so things of those natures stuck with me and helped me be who I am today.
Very interesting.
Go ahead, Jeff. I love it too.
Sorry about that, because the minister opened up a couple of things, 2 very, very important points for those of us who are listening today. And one was that a series of people poured into his life over the years. And oftentimes when we start talking, Siobhan, about this whole idea of leadership, we often think about it in the reverse. Who is going to look to me? Who's going to serve me? Who's going to kind of worship me? Because we become demigods in this whole confused idea of leadership. But he said that there were several people who poured into his life against a future opportunity. And then the second thing he talked about was the act of selflessness, when he used you as an example, in that you were not afraid to pick up his call and answer. And I think in his execution of his relationships over the years, he in turn has spent time pouring into other people's life. And now he's at a point in his life where he's looking for opportunities to answer people's calls. And I think that is so fundamentally sound for us, for all of us, because regardless of what stage we're in, keep in mind, somebody offered us an olive branch, somebody poured something into us. And one of the best ways that we can lead, one of the real true characteristics of a leader is based on how much he or she is prepared to pour into or invest in others. Very good points, Minister. Thank you so much for that.
Yes, but you know, I to add that I think people generally fall into three groups, you know, and they are, and I've always lived with this, and there are a few who make things happen, many who watch things happen, and then there's an overwhelming majority who knows nothing of what's happening. And so you have to make the decision which group you're going to be in. Either you're going to watch, make it, or just don't care, you know. And I felt that if you want this world to be a better place, it has to start with you. And, you know, some people are you can either be a thermometer or a thermostat. You know, a thermometer adapts to its environment, a thermostat controls its environment. So I always preach to my young persons as I mentor them, you know, either you can adapt to your environment or you can control your environment. And I think if you control your environment, you control your destiny.
Wow. Oh, that is so profound. If you control your environment, you control your destiny. And I have to ask about that in light of your being the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture. There is so much destiny and design in that role itself. Destiny really is at your fingertips. You're controlling it for so many people, or have the ability to impact it for so many people. So what is it that you're saying to the young people, and what is it that you're seeing for the young people to enable them to be those thermostats that you just spoke about?
My ministry is the most impactful ministry in this country. There is no other ministry in this country that can impact this nation like the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. I could tell you this, prior to being given the call that I would be sworn in as the Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, I've had so many persons, church doors I would have walked into, and persons would have just bestowed that upon me. And I would not have known these reverend people, gentlemen or women. And the morning prior to me being sworn in, the day before, I should say, I got a lot of text messages in my phone stating that I've been praying for you and you would be the next Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture. Because of my banking background, my sporting background, you know, I had let the party know, should be one. I was willing and able to serve in whichever capacity they felt my administration skills or my skill set would have served to ensure that we become a very successful administration. So I had no intention of giving them one area or the other, which I was just outright willing to serve. So I had left that decision up to the leadership and mostly up to the Lord, because I believe, again, a man appoints you through the wisdom bestowed upon him through the Lord. Again, that's my belief. And so I believe that it's right fitting in time that I'm one that is called for this time and period. And this is my season. And I think the Lord had me to be placed where I should be, where I can have the greatest impact on this country through assisting youths, through the culture aspect of identifying who we are as a people. And we know what the impact that sports could do with mentoring and molding the characters of individuals in this country. And so for me, I could feel it no more fitting than to wake up every morning and put on my suit and walk in the door of the Ministry of Youth, Sports and Culture. The morale there was very low when I came there. And if you ask the staff members today, things has changed. We have an open door policy, the same way I managed when I was in bank. When I got there, all of the doors, you had to use a swipe to get from one unit to the next. I felt that we were divided and not as a family, so I removed all the swipes. And I asked everyone to be able to walk freely from one unit to the next. I got a standing ovation when I authorized that the first day on the job. So the persons were happy. The culture unit began this Culture Friday. They could not come into my office without getting an appointment. I removed the appointment. The staff now walk in my office with their drums, their guitars, and their cowbells, and they was singing on Culture Friday, which they could not have done with any other minister. I do believe if you build an environment or a culture in your work environment where persons want to be to work, are happy to come to work. They're doing the work and don't even realize they're doing the work for the pay that they're getting. Then you will have a productive ministry. And I can assure you, you could tell Sweet Jesus as today's date, my ministry in the next 5 years under this administration will impact this lives of the youths tremendously, to the point where the youths of our nation will understand what's the importance, and also my colleagues, why least is given, but so much is expected from this ministry. And so for me now, it's about understanding we the only ministry that can impact the lives directly of these individuals. So I want to empower the youths and let them know that we are there for them. And I want them to be able to know that they are our future. So we must invest more in them and not less.
You know, you said something that is so important. And as a matter of fact, you just actually articulated the comment you made earlier about controlling your environment, you control your destiny. The power of presence. You went into a ministry that you might have been working around and with over the years, but you really never got into the heartbeat until you walked into a ministry, felt the heartbeat and realized it was faint. And presence, your presence in making the difference in how you change the culture, the environment in which you all now work, has resulted in people's energy, people's morale, people's view of the future. And that is really what's going to happen, because when we ignite the passion in people by recognizing that they are people, you know, we get all excited about all the titles and everything else, but the fact of the matter is, God gave us one commodity and one asset. The commodity he gave us is time, the resource he gave us, the commodity, the resource is people. We don't spend enough time impacting people. And what you did just now by sharing that affirms your earlier statement about controlling the environment. You affected the environment in such a way that you can positively say you have a great acceptation of the future, which is part of your destiny. So fantastic, fantastic work and a good start.
Thank you.
So having said that,
Okay, Jeff. All right, you go. That's so good. Oh my God.
Having said that, very quickly, right? Destiny comes with a price. Okay.
Yes.
And one of the things that, you know, is one of the most challenging parts of leading is most people want the reward, but few people want to pay a price for what it's going to take to get me to the finish line. Talk to us about the importance of understanding that destiny fulfillment has a price that comes with it.
You know, Jeff, I go back to my biblical teachings. And, there are many are called and few are chosen. Those who are called but not chosen goes in it for the wrong reasons. But those who are chosen and called, there is no sacrifice that will come upon them that will not be too heavy for them to bear. And I believe that, again, if the Lord directs your path, then there should be no concern about the sacrifice. Physically, in this world, we sacrifice our entire family lives by going in frontline politics. To be victimized by the opposite, should you ever sit on the opposite side and not be in governance, and they make life harder for you. But again, I still believe we are not enemies on either side of the government, whether we in government or opposition. We are Bahamians. And despite our debates in the House of Assembly, I do believe that we should still maintain respect and friendship amongst each other. And the Bahamian people must realize and understand that. And yet I believe that the heart of a man on what he believes and who he is will reflect that. And those individuals on the opposite or the other side will have no reason to victimize him for some reason or the other. And then again, I believe if one door is closed, the other will be open. And so while I sacrifice and put my family, my 2 kids and my wife out there to be victimized because of persons on the opposite side who may be I call them the small man because they're not in the house to see the relationship that some of us have. At the end of the day, I believe, you know, the Lord send you out there. He got your back. And when I walked to the banking, I was told, you know, you sure you want to do this? Because you could win your seat, but your party may lose. And then you're gonna have that big drop in salary, and you're done living at a certain level of standard, financial standard. And if that drops, could you afford now to take care of your family and all of that? But listen to me, let me reverse a little further. My wife was saying to me, I should not inform the bank that of my intent to be nominated, because I was told I might have to resign. And she was not working, and she still is not working at this day. And so she said, nah, if they make you resign, how we can pay the bills? So I said, don't worry about that, I'll find a way. So she said her head was shaking because she knew I was about to go into the office and said, listen, I'm going to tell Commonwealth Bank, I'm going to be nominated. I can't have the party holding back no more. I need to get on the road and start working to win this seat. So she said she was driving and she put her head down for a second because her head was shaking, and when she put it up, the car was right in the front of her. She stopped suddenly. And on the back of the car, it said, it's the plans of the Lord. And that was her sign right there to come home and say to me, you could go and tell Commonwealth Bank that you can take that nomination. It's time for us to move on. Wow. You know, and that is why I believe all of this for me was the plan of the Lord. And so when she came home and tell me that, I went to Commonwealth Bank and I said, listen, next week, Wednesday, I'm going to take this nomination. Now, y'all let me know what y'all want me to do. The HR called me 2 days prior to the nomination. You know what they said to me? We're going to allow you to work until up to election day. And then you make your determination what you're going to do after the election. And so they left the door open for me. And if men lose or draw, I had an opportunity to come back to the bank. Yeah. And that's again because of who I am, what they saw in me as an individual, an employee at that institution. So they knew that they were about to lose someone who impacted that organization, but was getting ready to impact the nation. But had I not been elected, they was willing to bring me back through those doors to continue impacting that organization.
Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 in living color, ladies and gentlemen. Siobhan, this is so exciting, right? We could talk about this because I tell you, I mean, this is just a great start because I think we're laying a foundation that underscores one thing. When we trust the Lord, there is little that we have to even be concerned about, because Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 is being lived out, and the ministers are articulating very clearly what happens in our lives when we trust the Lord with all our hearts, not to our own understanding. When we acknowledge him in all our ways, the promise is he and he alone will direct our paths. What an incredible start. Minister, thank you so much. Siobhan. I think she may be frozen there for a moment. Siobhan, let us know when you come back to us. So Minister, as we wrap up our time together, if you had to give any specific advice, any nugget that you'd want to leave with our audience today, particularly those persons who may have been trying so hard to find a path for themselves, what advice would you leave with them today?
My advice would be simple. Stick to what you know you have a care and passion for. And when I say that, I mean, if you have a desire, a burning desire for progress in a certain particular field or area that you know can be impactful in the lives of individuals. Everything we do is for something that is bigger than us, and that is not about us, but it's bigger than us. And when we do things that seems to be so little, but it's in other person's eyes, it's bigger than us, we then receive our award at a later date. But if we pay attention of trying to do things for reward, then we'll find no reward at the end of the day. So do the little things that seems little, but is much bigger than us, because every successful man and woman to this day in this world have done things that is bigger than them that they didn't realize until a later date. So continue what you're doing. Find means of ways to leave a legacy in this world. And whether it's big or small, people only remember how you make them feel and what you've done for them. And people don't care unless they know that you care.
Wow. Minister, it's been phenomenal. Oh, wow. Just so many nuggets. Thank you.
Thank
so
you.
very much. Thank you so very much. We know you have a hectic schedule. You have to travel. We so appreciate you taking time out to be with us and talk about your process.
Thank you much. It was a pleasure to be here, and you can call on me anytime.
Oh, thank you, sir. And we will take you up on that invitation, certainly.
But we wish you well and Godspeed.
All right, thank you. Thank you both.
Yes, thank you, sir. All right, so you have just heard from our Honorable Minister of Youth, Sports, and Culture, the Honorable Mario Bowleg, about his process, which has been so powerful. And he ended with something that is so significant. Sometimes we overlook the minute and the small activities that we do, and we think that it goes unrecognized, and we think that it goes unrewarded. But when we do things without looking necessarily for a reward in the immediate, we are building a legacy that will supersede what we could ever think or imagine. So in your process, it may seem difficult at this particular point in time. You may feel discouraged, depressed, overwhelmed at this particular time, but recognize that that challenge is working out for you, more muscle for you to be progressing in later days, progressing in later months, progressing in later years. You're building your muscle to be productive. You're building your muscle to be successful. So thank you again so very much, Minister. And Jeff, that was so enlightening to just have some time with the minister.
Yes, indeed. You know, I said earlier that this was an exciting start because I think this is a great way to set the foundation for the rest of our time together today, because nothing is really impactful until the order is set. And so, Minister, you've set that order. You've said very clearly where your faith and confidence rests, and the fact that you have a passion for people, and you are going to do well. We are very confident that you will. And so thank you so much again. And yes, Siobhan, it's been a great start. And I'm excited for our participants who are here today. And by the way, if you do have a question that you want to ask, just put it in the chat. We'll be happy to include that. This is going to be in a very interactive session today, and we look forward to it. So thank you so much, Minister. God bless you.
Yes, and thank you so much, yes, for putting those questions. I saw comments as well in the chat, someone saying like, this is so powerful, you know, what we're gathering today. So feel free, yes, to put your questions in. We have another dynamic speaker who is coming up in short order, and we just will segue to one of our commercial breaks and get ready for Mr. Ricardo Deveaux.
She's commonly known as Nishka Jerome, a singer, songwriter, poet, beautician, and entrepreneur raised in a Christian family home. From a young age, she discovered her talent, and in 1996, she won the National Arts Festival and Poetry Recital. A profound passion of hers is working with at-risk youths, providing them with jobs and an outlet of safety and healthy life progression through mentorship. She's the owner of Salon Euphoria, founder of a nonprofit organization called Prophetic Gospel, and most recently started working with the youth ministry at Living Waters Kingdom Ministries. A bachelor's in psychology is her latest pursuit. Please welcome Nishka Jerome.
How can I live one day without music? How can I live one day without you? How can I live one day without music? It's always in my head. You're like a cool breeze on a summer's day. Yeah, you are a river running through a desert place. You are my shelter from the pouring rain. Yeah, you are my comfort even before the pain. I can hear the sound of fire drummers in the wind. Airplane in the distance plays a beautiful cello line. A tin can rolls across the gravel like a crampering. I am but a vessel, and so I sing because you are in my head. are always in my head. Tell me, how can I live one day without music? How can I live one day without you? How can I live one day without music? It's always in my head. Tell me, how can I live one day without music? How can I live one day without you? How can I live one day without music? It's always in my head. Tell me, how can I live one day without music? How can I live one day without you? How can I live one day without music? It's always in my head. Look for me. I am sitting in the notes on your treble clef. My alphabetical order unusual, but look at me, spiritual A. All came short of his glory, including me. B, there are no buts, so maybe it's just all truth. That's what set me free. C, I am both called and chosen. D, don't discriminate, rather appreciate the struggle that initiates the crushing that poured the oil out of me, resulting in the manifestation you now see. E is for every mountain he brought me over, and every trial he will ever see me through. F speaks of my fight, my lyrics taking flight through music, because I don't stand alone. See, I was never on my own. G, here comes the God in me standing against the waster who was set up to destroy. Somehow we forgot the God I serve is the real McCoy. I stand upon the musical staff of God, 5 lines, 5 times the number of grace, the fifth. 1/5 of my anatomy would have been gone if it hadn't been for he who redeemed my life from destruction, healed all my disease, granted me with loving kindness and tender mercies. Oh, mercy, have mercy. How could I ever leave grace without mercy? Mercy upon me took me to the mercy seat, and though raw joint staffed and chastising me, logos came alive, rod and staff became the rhema that comforted me. There is a base that, but don't consider me low. My submission and humility only shows how much I've grown. Meek and low, fill me up from the baseline until I overflow. Now he is exalted and I'm overflowing. No, I am not Slim Shady. I am not whatever you say I am, but I am the bread of life, the way, the truth, and the life, the door that will open through my threshing floor. I am the bass clef, the treble clef, the unwritten clef, unfolding all the pages of my waking life. I am the guitar, playing God's heart. I am the voice of one crying out in today's wilderness. I am the heart of worship that will seek his face. O Jacob, with my head lifted up, not to the rising sun, but to the hills, seeking God's son. I am the power. I am the glory. I am the fingers weaving epistles with pen, releasing God's revelation with tongue. I am the power. I am the glory. I am hand clapping, feet stomping, body rocking, Holy Ghost sanctified. I am nothing and I am everything. I am God's own. I am God's love. I am heavenly lyrics and rhymes, beats and chimes. I am the breath that will praise him, shall praise him, living to praise him. I am music.
Ricardo P. Deveaux, Deputy Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Education, Technical and Vocational Training, and President and CEO of the Bahamas Primary School Student of the Year Foundation. Ricardo P. Deveaux is a 1985 graduate of the R.M. Bailey Senior High School, a 1990 graduate of the Bethune-Cookman College, now University, with a Bachelor of Science degree in Psychology with honors, and a 1992 graduate of Nova Southeastern University with a Master of Science degree in Human Services with a specialization in Human Resource Management. He is employed with the Bahamas government since 1992. He is currently stationed at the Ministry of Education and Technical and Vocational Training as a Deputy Permanent Secretary with responsibility for the technical education, security, and labor relations. Yearning to impact his community and his country, Mr. Deveaux was instrumental in the establishment of the Bahamas' Primary School Student of the Year Awards Program, a premier award scheme in the Bahamas. The awards program has recognized over 3,000 of the best and brightest primary school students and has awarded over $2 million worth of scholarship and prizes since 1997. He is married to Pamela J. Deveaux nee Cunningham, a chartered accountant. They are the proud parents of 2 daughters, Riche Juanita and Paige Aaliyah Deveaux. He is the eldest of son Edward and Beverly Deveaux. Ricardo and his family worships at St. George's Anglican Church. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Ricardo Deveaux.
Woohoo!
Good morning.
Welcome, welcome.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Doc, it's so great to have you.
Man, it is a pleasure to be up and excited, Doc.
Well, Well, that is great, and it's always a pleasure. And, you were the second one to say that you're up early on a Saturday morning. So I gather that Saturday mornings is our time to sleep beyond 7 o'clock.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's a real joy to have you with us today. So fantastic. Good to be here. Happy Saturday.
To define process.
Yes.
Process would be defined and looking like someone called Ricardo Deveaux. It is the ability to and capacity to direct or influence the behavior of others or the course of events. And I know there's a couple of things that you do that are really directly influencing and impacting the behavior of others and the course of their destinies. So let's jump right in, Ricardo, and let's talk about your process and the power of your process. Can you describe that for us? Because they see you, but some people just don't know what you've been through to get to where you are today.
Well, first of all, again, I'm grateful to be here. The process of you are right. Persons usually look at a finished product. They don't look at that. It was a refining process to get to where we are. And I can truly say that for me, I've always been passionate about leadership. I've always been passionate about service, but I started out as a very shy young man. And I guess for me, I know that this would have been another part of it, but I want to say that life and the process of making a difference, a process of going through leadership is not a final destination, but it's a journey to where you want to go. It's a journey of along the way, some things will happen. But I know for me in leadership, I'm looking forward to making a difference. I'm looking forward to being passionate about what it is to make a difference, what it is to impact a life. And so for everything that I've done, whether it's been professionally working for the Bahamas government, whether it is the Bahamas Primary School Student of the Year Foundation, whether it is fraternally with my fraternity, it's all about making a difference. It's all about becoming a better person and ensuring that we have a better community.
You're right. People see you, they didn't know you. I'll tell you, when I started watching you on TV with the primary school children, I saw the persona of a very quiet man, a man who was going about his business, seemingly many times kind of almost alone in your passion and on your journey. But at the end of the day, you said something was very important. We often judge the finished product, right?
Yes.
We don't get to try and peep over the fence to see what it took to get there. And in our previous conversation with the minister, you talked about destiny and we talked about it having a price. There were some lessons you learned over the years. What are some of those key lessons you learned in your development in this journey to where you are today?
Well, let me tell you, I will start out with the story of who Ricardo Deveaux is, and then you can find out exactly what this whole thing of or this whole passion has been about. Everyone, as they always say, everyone see Ricardo Deveaux, who has done all of these, what they would call, I guess, extraordinary things. But there was a time when this young man here was not the young man who we see today. I'll go back to 1983. I was at one of the premier high schools in the Bahamas, and June of 1983, I got a letter that says, "I'm sorry, he has failed, and he has to be withdrawn from the school." So I was kicked out of school in 1983 while a student at St. Augustine's College. I was kicked out because I got 3 Fs, 2 Ds. I wasn't kicked out because I failed the 10th grade. And in grade 8, I had to repeat the 8th grade. And so you can't repeat twice. And so I had to leave. And it was so interesting because my parents, and I always tell people, I didn't get kicked out for fighting or for funds. I got kicked out because I failed. And in 1983, my parents tried to get me into 2 additional private schools, and that didn't work. And so left with little options, I was enrolled in R.M. Bailey Senior High School, a public school. And I can tell you that I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to walk into that school in those white pants and that. At that time, our uniform resembled that of what Kentucky Fried Chicken workers wore.
I remember
And
well.
I was so embarrassed. Let me tell you, I used to go to school. I kept a shirt in my bag. So by the time school was out, I changed my uniform because I did not want, I mean, I was hurt, I was embarrassed. And I guess I needed that in my life because when I got to R.M. Bailey, I met a high school guidance counselor by the name of Zoe Powell, the late Charles Chuck Mackey. He was the senior master there. And actually, he was the one who got me into R.M. Bailey. I met a teacher by the name of Sharon Poitier and the principal, Errol Bethel. Those persons poured into me. And persons always ask, well, what happened? Why did you fail? I mean, and I can tell you, I honestly do not know what happened those first 5 years. But when I went to R.M. Bailey, my guidance counselor, she decided, she was like, I guess I became a project for her because she pushed, she encouraged me to do my work. She saw, and and all of this time, I was grateful to my parents, Edward and Beverly Deveaux, because they never gave up on me. They never one day said, well, I'm not going to spend no money. Because even though I failed in 1983, my parents still spent money to send me to academia because they didn't give up. And interesting enough, I went to R.M. Bailey for 2 years and I started hanging out with persons like Keith Bell and Debbie Ramming Johnson, persons who were honor roll scholars at R.M. Bailey. And they didn't know that I had come to R.M. Bailey because I had flunked. And I started hanging out with them. And it was interesting when I started hanging out with them, they started to inspire me. And they were saying, well, oh, I was inspiring them because at that time at R.M. Bailey, I guess I appeared to be someone who had their whole life and everything together because of what my parents were able to provide. I was one of the students at that time who had a car when I went to school. So I guess they thought that, oh, who's this guy here? But that changed my life, those 2 years that I spent at R.M. Bailey. But you know, what was interesting was in 1985, we were all graduating from high school and all of my friends got into the College of the Bahamas and I did not get in. And so I didn't get in. And so I was like, my parents and my high school guidance counselor was like, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know. And so I went to work for a year. And I remember my high school guidance counselor still after me. And she was like, Ricardo, you need to go off to school. And I was like, I can't go off to school because the teacher had already told me the type of grades I have, I'll never be able to go to college. And I can tell you, I got into the College of the Bahamas for the class of 86. But my high school guidance counselor said, no, you need to go off. You need to go off. And she took me on a college tour to Bethune-Cookman College at the time in February of 1986. 5 days I spent at Bethune-Cookman. And you would never believe it. At the end of the 5th day, she spoke life into me. And that's why for me, persons see, well, why are you so passionate? And let me tell you why. Because at the end of the 5 days, we lived on campus. We ate in the, we lived in the dorm. We ate in the cafeteria. We attended classes, just like we would have a college experience. And on the 5th day, my high school guidance counselor said, Ricardo, you will return to Bethune-Cookman in August of 1986. She said, you will be an honor roll scholar. She said, you will pledge Alpha Phi Alpha, which I did. And she said, you will become the student
shout out.
you will become president of the student body in your senior year. She said you will graduate from Bethune-Cookman with honors. I didn't know what she was talking, but I went to Bethune in '86. The college president took me in as his college son, And so he took a, he made sure that I was going to classes, I was doing my work. At the end of my first semester, I got a 3.83. I wish I was supposed to bring the trophy today. The trophy was this big, but the trophy this big gave me a head like this big because I was so excited. That was the first time in my life. And I remember coming home that Christmas, my first Christmas from school, and my parents and being so proud of how I was able to get a 3.83. And so it was like, I guess there was like a good feeling for them. And at the end of the next semester, I continued to work. I ran for student government, council person at large. I beat a junior. And at the end of my freshman year, I was most outstanding freshman. At the end of my sophomore year, I was most outstanding sophomore. In my sophomore year, I pledged Alpha Phi Alpha. In my junior year, I ran for student government treasurer. In my senior year, I was student body president, like how my guidance counselor said. And in 1990, April of 1990, I graduated from Bethune-Cookman College with honors, actually the top of my psychology class. And so everything that my high school guidance counselor had told me came true. And so I am grateful for the persons who poured into my life. And so that's why I'm giving back.
Wow, you know, it's very, very powerful in that so many things were covered in that expression just now. You encountered failure, you encountered shame and embarrassment, you encountered, you wanted to hide, as it were, right? And you couldn't tell anyone that you had flunked out. But there are some good things that came out of that. Sometimes where we are is not designed for us to be.
Yeah.
Think about that for a moment. You couldn't think of many people who would want to be at SAC or any other name brand school, right? But then in your situation, SAC was not where you needed to be.
Yes.
Now you may not have seen it then, and sometimes the message in that, and sometimes the message in that for us is where we are trying to get or where we may be is not where we're supposed to be in order to fulfill our best, right? Yeah. And then out of that, yeah, you packed a bag because you didn't want anybody to know that you went to Aaron Bailey, not realizing though that change, as dramatic it may have seemed, was going to be the change that propelled you to where you are today. So having shared that, having shared the ability to feel the shame and not deny it, but overcome it, right? There are many young men in our society who are faced with many issues of failure, shame, embarrassment. They almost want to hide. They don't even want to tell their story. In an era where young men are fading closer to the back of the room, what advice would you give to young men, having lived your experience, given the fact that it'll never be changed no matter what our views of life are? We need men in order to have a strong, balanced society. What advice would you give to our young men?
Well, Mr. Beckles, I want to tell you, I was not always proud of this because I remember coming back home in 1992 after doing my bachelor's and master's, and a high school guidance counselor who knew my story invited me to H.O. Nash in 1993. And the thing was, she wanted me to talk to a group of, it was about 100 bad boys they considered. These young men were skipping school. They were doing very bad academically. They were the troubled young men in the school. So of course I got to H.O. Nash that day. I was dressed up, I had on a tie. And when I walked through the gate, I was like, man, I don't even want to speak to these young men because they can look at me, this like, oh, this little soft boy, come dress up like this. How can he relate to me? And I honestly, that day I had a prepared text. I walked into that group of guys and I saw that they were going to be trouble for me because they wasn't going to listen to whatever I had to say. The first time in my life that I actually put down a prepared speech that I had worked on, and I actually just talked about my life and how I flunked out of school and how I just gave them my story. And that's all I did. That was the first time I'd ever spoken to anyone about my story, because I can tell you, I went to college and no one knew that I flunked out of high school. No one knew that I got, in fact, my friends from St. Augustine's College, when I started to tell my story, they were like, Ricardo, you didn't graduate with us? I mean, that's crazy. I mean, when did this happen? You know, but the interesting thing about it was after the H.O. Nash, me giving that presentation, I walked up the gate that day and I felt this low, because I was like, oh my gosh, I had lived this life that everyone looked at me as, oh, Ricardo is a smart young man, all of these honors he had. So I felt really embarrassed. And a year later, the same guidance counselor at H.O. Nash called me back. This time she wanted me to speak to the 12th graders about, now you finished, what are you going to do? And I remember speaking to that 12th grade class and telling them about, hey, I don't care what you've gone through, you got to push, you got to push. And I told them my story, and I told them, I said, I don't care how long it takes to get to school, I need you to get to school. You need to get into some technical school, get into some college, because you have to do it. And it was interesting because after I did that, I was like, boy, I went there and of course, when you hear the introduction or someone introducing you and they tell you win these awards and now you're telling them that you failed. So I was like, oh gosh. But I walked out of that. I never thought about that situation again. But 8 years later, in 2002, I got an email from a young man who said, and I still have that email today, where he says, I came to H.O. Nash in 1993. He said, I was a student who had a 0.97. He said, but after I finished speaking to them, he said that next semester, he brought his grade point average up. He said, he never looked at himself as being able to go to college. He said, but I came back the next year and I inspired him. He said it took him 4 years of working and getting into school. And he said, when he went to school, he studied communications and English. And he said, when he graduated, I was the first person he wanted to thank. And he sent me this email. And I remember sitting there at my computer and crying when I got that email, because I was like, I thought that I didn't impact anybody's life. But here it was, the message resonated with one person. Do you know that young man today is a teacher?
Wow.
In the government system, a teacher, and his class is doing very well. I was like, wow, how one life was changed because of a story. And so I just tell you, so for me, that's why I'm passionate the way I am.
Excellent, excellent. Siobhan.
And Ricardo, tell us about the impetus and how your process impacted the Student of the Year program. How did you get the idea to get that started?
Well, that's another interesting thing. While I was in graduate school at Nova Southeastern University, I had applied for the Florida College Student of the Year Awards program in 1992. And when I applied, I was like, oh man, I just wanted to win this award. And I remember applying, and I had put all the things that I had accomplished and everything. And in 1992, I went to Florida, the state capital, for the annual Florida College Student of the Year Award, which honors thousands of students. I was one of 7 finalists. I was the only male that made it to the finals. I was the only student of color, and I was the first student from Nova Southeastern University to make it to the finals. So of course, I was like, wow, great. And I remember my parents, that we all traveled to Tallahassee so I can be honored. And I sat there and being presented with my award. And I said, boy, it'll be good for me to one day start a program like this back in the Bahamas. And so when I came back home, I was president of the Fraternity and Sorority Council. And you know, when you're in leadership, you want something to be your legacy. So I said, oh, maybe we should start a Student of the Year competition. Well, everyone, all of the fraternities and sororities, they have a program that honors high school males, high school females, some program dealing with high school. So we had at the time on the council 4 educators who, 2 of them were primary school educators. And they were like, Ricardo, nothing is being done in this country for primary school students. So maybe we should consider doing it at the primary school level. At that time, I was working at the Ministry of Education, and Dame Ivy DeMont was the Minister of Education. So I went to her one morning and I said, I'm thinking about, my organization is thinking about starting an awards program for Student of the Year. And I gave her all the details. And so she immediately said, well, I am a former primary school principal. You all should do it for the primary school. So I was like, oh my, that is it right there. And so we, in 1997, actually started the Bahamas Primary School Student of the Year Awards program with 31 students from New Providence. Now, Lawsman, we had a big ceremony at Government House, and Sir Orville Tunquest was the Governor General, and he applauded us for coming to Government House, but he gave us a good beating. He said we were never to come back to Government House with students all from New Providence and call it the Bahamas Primary School Student of the Year. So that is how we started the Bahamas Primary School Student of the Year.
Excellent. And you know why that's so important? It is so often we get criticized for being so Nassau-centric and calling it the Bahamas, right?
Yes.
And one of the things that our listeners can actually appreciate is that get in the habit of seeing the Bahamas as it is. There is incredible talent throughout the length and breadth of the Bahamas. And I go back to an example of the boys from Moores Island. Who would have ever thought that they would come to Nassau and win high school relays? Who would have ever thought one of them would become a world-class 400-meter runner? The beauty of it is teachers and leaders and wherever you find yourself serving throughout this country, always look for talent, always believe that there can be the next one coming from my little community.
Of course, of course.
So Ricardo, as you talked about that, and as you talked about the investment that you thought was necessary in our young people, and then through the admonition of an encouragement rather of Dame Ivy and the admonition of Sir Orville, you got to hone this exercise. Now it is years later, $2 million invested in our young people. Can you readily think of some of those young people that would have been invested in the last several years?
Oh, yeah. Well, we have had
just tell us a little bit of maybe how they're serving the community today, how they're playing it forward.
Well, let me tell you, first of all, I want to tell you I'm excited because we have had over 3,000 of the best and brightest primary school students who have passed through this program. I'll give some examples of some of our people, but I want to tell you, in two years ago, we have Stankisha Pinder, who was a 1998 fourth runner-up in this awards program. She is now the Vice President of Communications for the Bahamas Primary School Student of the Year Foundation. She is the first former nominee to be a part now to directly involved in making sure this program works. I have a Dr. Chanel Adley, who is actually a medical doctor. She was in the program in 2004, representing Naomi Blatch, a young girl from the inner city who went to Naomi Blatch. Today, she's a medical doctor. She's not only a medical doctor, she's a member, she's the Vice President of Administration for the Bahamas Primary School Student of the Year Foundation. When I think of persons like Dr. Vashti Darling, who was our 1997 Student of the Year, she's a medical doctor. Andrea Mutri, who represented St. John's in 1998, she is an attorney today. When I look at Parish Knowles, who was from Harbor Island All-Age School in the awards program today, she's an educator. We have Kenny Roberts, who was from Spanish Wells, and today he's a senior pastor of a church. So our nominees, and I have so much nominees, but I want to tell you, in just 3 months ago, appointed as the Vice President of the Senate is Senator the Honorable Barry J. Griffin Jr., who is a 1998 13th place finalist in the awards program, and today Vice President of the Senate. I see Dr. Lloyd clapping. Dr. Lloyd, she may know she was a part of this because her son Judah is is our former first runner-up 6 years ago, and still he's doing well. Our kids, private, public, Family Island, New Providence, they are still doing well. And I'm so proud of what they have been doing. And so I want to tell you how I remember my kids. I had the other day, someone came here to make a courtesy call at the Ministry of Education. And this lady was telling me about how her child was in the Student of the Year. And I said, yes. And I called the child's name and the year he was in the awards program. And she was like, how did you remember that? I said, I know my kids. I know my students. One day, a young lady was walking past when I was working at another place. She was walking past my office, and she saw her mother. They saw me, and she said, "Mommy, you remember that man? That's the man from the Student of the Year." I said, "Hi, Auntie Stubbs." I said, "How are you doing?" And she was like, I said, "Yeah, I remember." I said, "And you were the former junior minister of tourism, aren't you?" And she said, "Ricardo, how do you remember your people? How do you remember us?" But I do, and I follow them up. I truly do. I thought at one time I thought I was just being nosy, but it's exciting.
But yes, our young people are actually making significant contributions to our society, having had someone invest in them, right? But Ricardo, in the midst of all of this excitement and passion and celebratory mood, someone out there is a bit frustrated, a little confused, anxious about where they are, about their own future, right? What do we say to them? Because you've actually experienced a lot of what some of us may be feeling or have felt, but talk to the person who's out there feeling a little discouraged about their process and why they ought not to give up.
Well, first of all, Mr. Beckles, I want to tell you, see, a lot of times we look at it and say, well, everything is going to be right. Oh, Mr. Deveaux had a very good road. But I can tell you, even as I became older, I still had opportunities where doors would close in my face, even professionally at my work, where I wasn't getting the promotion on time. I had persons who didn't want me to get promoted, but I had to continue to work. And let me tell you, sometimes you have to look at it like this. You know what? Every time and I'm a firm believer, I'm big on my God. And I believe that sometimes God places us in situations to refine us. I always tell people, I talk about crisis in our lives, and people out there who may be going through a crisis, I always tell them, I said, a crisis does three things to us. It either defines us, it refines us, or it blinds us. And so I want us to know that sometimes we go through some situations. It's not to blind us, but it's actually to make us a better person. And so I want to tell the person out there, yes, you might fail today, but that is because maybe a door is closing that you weren't supposed to go through. And maybe it is to direct you. And maybe if that door did not close, you would not appreciate where you are. So I always say, a crisis either refines you, defines you, or blind you. And so out there, I want you to don't let the crisis blind you, please, because every opportunity, that means God is refining you for something else.
Excellent advice. Excellent advice. I love that because you're right. The process is the process. And the truth of the matter is, the process is not going to be diluted or diverted. And my grandma used to always say, don't complain and ask God to remove you from the trials. Yeah. Because he may do it for you in answer to your prayer, but he will move the trial down the road.
Yeah, well, let me tell you.
Because you got to go through it, right?
Mr. Beckles and Dr. Lloyd, I want to tell you, and tell you just how I always talk about closed door opportunities, and God opens another door. As I said, I'm a part of the Nassau Bahamas Pan-Atlantic Council. I was a part for 4 years. I was the international first vice president of the National Pan-Atlantic Council, which is the governing body out of the US for all of the fraternities and sororities, representing 1 million members. Wow. In 1999, I was 31. I became the youngest individual and one of the the first person outside of the US to ever hold the national first vice president of our organization. And when I served for 4 years, and natural progression would mean that they loved me. So I would become the international president in 2003. I remember running a well-orchestrated campaign. It was like, there was no way that I was supposed to lose the election. I went in there for the whole hog. I was going to make the history. I was going to, because I mean, for 4 years, I was national first vice president, traveling around the US, having this good life. You know, people, you have, when you get to the airport, you have a sign, I'm waiting for Ricardo, Deveaux. You have, it was like everything taken care of. And 4 years later, I'm now running to become the international president, would have been one of the youngest, the first from outside of the Bahamas. And that door was closed in my face in October 2003.
That is so good. Woo.
Closed in your face. And guess what? I want to tell you, I didn't know why God closed the door. And I was upset. And I ain't gonna tell you no lie. I was upset for about 7 minutes. And then I was like, I don't know why. I mean, and then I was sort of embarrassed to come back home because everyone knew that Ricardo Deveaux was going to be the next international president. So I had to come home to explain people, but you know how God works. He closed that door. And guess what happened? 9 months later, 9 months, the period of, what it is, 9 months, the persons who went with me to the convention in October of 1993, in June of 2004, that same team came together and we formed the Bahamas Primary School Student of the Year Foundation. So we took it away from the committee. 9 months later, we founded the foundation. From 2004 to 2021. We have, before the foundation was founded, we raised about, from 1997 to 2004, we raised about $50,000 in scholarships. From the formation of the foundation to now, $2 million.
Wow.
I said, had I would have spent 4 years in that international office, and I would have made history. But God knew that, I believe that he was preparing me because I operated at such a high level at the International Pan-Hellenic Council. I came home 9 months later, we founded the foundation. I became the president and CEO. So I didn't think as this was a committee. I thought of this as a foundation. I thought that I was the actual president, CEO. And so when I interacted with the general managers and the presidents of companies, I didn't act like I was the chairman of a committee. I was the president and CEO of an actual foundation. And that is how our foundation ran. It ran as a business, as an individual who was interacting with other CEOs. And so because of that door closed, I was able to make a greater impact in the Bahamas. And I believe that that is what God wanted me to do. But he wanted to prepare me for that role. And so that's what he did.
So trusting the process then becomes an extraordinary part of this whole discussion, because the truth is none of us like the process because we don't like to get stretched. No. We don't like to get pulled. We don't like to get rolled. We don't like to get pressurized. And, you know, and in all of those examples, right, I think of Play-Doh. You know, all of us used to have Play-Doh as little children. And we used to do some strange things to Play-Doh. We would ball it up. We would stretch it. We would throw it against the wall and see if it'll stick. And we would do all sorts of things, and the Play-Doh would still be there, faithful and loyal, right? And then when you think about getting stretched, right? We don't like the idea of getting to stretched because, you know, all of us believe we're strong, but if you never get stretched, you won't know how strong you are, right? And resiliency, it's a new word that everybody's talking about since the pandemic, right? Well, if you want to see how resilient you are, you're going to get stretched and you're going to get rolled. If you think of a rolling pin, when my grandma used to put that dough on the board, she would take that rolling pin and she would press that into and mold it. The reality of it is we have to learn to trust the process, because in that process, we get to learn not so much about where we're going, you know, but who we are. Because my next question is going to be poised like this. we have a very bad habit of trying to define what success looks like, so that
Yes.
everybody tries to aspire to this definition of success. When in fact, success for Ricardo may be achieving the first a mile run.
Yes.
Success for Jeffrey might be simply being able to run 100 yards.
Yes.
But then we look at Jeffrey, who only ran 100 yards, and say, oh, he isn't ready. He hasn't done anything in life. He ain't make it yet. When in fact,
That was his success.
for him,
Yes.
was
Yes.
that was his success. And so I wanted to ask a question: how important is it for us to encourage people, as you have been encouraged, to continue to work toward their own achieving their success, as opposed to what
Someone
we
else's.
put up there as a campaign of success?
Yeah, well, that is very important. And I think it also starts with the parents too, because I believe that parents have to be able to say that, you say if you have 3 children, and my parents were great examples of this. They never compared me against my 2 brothers. What they ask you to do is do your best. Now, if your best is not the honor roll, but your best was, I was getting B's and C's, but it has to be your best. So again, everyone has to set, and I tell persons all the time, Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision, make it plain. And so I tell persons, your success is write down the things that you would like to accomplish. And then you start to work towards them. And then guess what? Once you write those things down, you write your 5 goals, you write your 10 goals. And as you cross that off, and that's what I've done, I write what I'd like to accomplish this week, this year, this month. And when I cross that out, I can say, well, that is my success, because my success, like how you said, might have been to say, well, this week I'm going to start doing something positive. And so once I do that positive, that is a success to me. And so I'm not looking at what Mike is doing. I'm not looking at what Dr. Lloyd is doing. I'm not looking at what Mr. Beckles is doing. I'm looking at, these are the things that I need to do for me to be successful. These are the things that I look at. And so once I map out my plan, that is what I would consider the success. And I want to tell you, it is so, so, so important to be able to write your plan down of things that you want to do. And again, all of us are different when it comes to what success is, because what may excite me may not be the same thing that excites you. I can say, and just going back for just a minute, when I graduated from Bethune-Cookman College, April 23rd, 1990, I remember what the president, who was my college dad, said. He said, Ricardo, I had to speak at graduation, and he says, ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Ricardo Deveaux, in his final time as president of the student body and the future prime minister of the Bahamas. And so I was like, I don't want to be no prime minister, but I thought I'd be something great in the Bahamas. And guess what I told my president in 1990? I said, since you said I'm going to be the prime minister, I'm going to come back to Bethune-Cookman to serve as your commencement speaker. And 2004, he retired. And I remember going to see him before he retired. I said, you said I was going to be the prime minister. I tell you, I was coming back to be your commencement speaker. How you could retire before that happened? We had a new president who came in 2004. She visited the Bahamas in 2008. After 5 days of visiting the Bahamas, she didn't know me. I didn't know her. But after 5 days of visiting the Bahamas, she announced that in 2009 that I would be the commencement speaker for Bethune-Cookman. So in May of 2009, I walked onto the stage and delivered the commencement address for Bethune-Cookman. Again, I was 42 and one of the youngest persons to deliver that commencement address. But in 1979, the first Prime Minister of the Bahamas, Sir Lyndon Oscar Penling, was the first Bahamian to speak. Ricardo Deveaux was the second, almost many years later. But let me tell you, I walked on a stage in May of 2009, following in the footsteps of Dr. Martin Luther King, his wife, Scoretta Scott King, Bill Cosby, Dr. Ben Carson, who served as speakers at Bethune-Cookman College and walked off with an honorary doctorate. Make your plans, write them down, and God will see you to get to those visions. So I say small steps to big steps.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Amazing stuff. So as we wrap up our time together, I can tell you I got to see a different side of you today. I've been following you for a very long time, Facebook and otherwise, and I'll tell you, I got to know Ricardo, Deveaux from a different perspective today, and so it's been refreshing. As we wrap up our time together with you, though, if you were to leave one nugget with our audience today, what would that nugget be?
That would be, today, someone out there is looking and they have been failing. They have been frustrated, job-wise, family-wise. Sometimes I'm saying reset the button and begin today to say that, you know what, I am going to win. These are the things that I will do. I will reset today to begin anew. I will allow God to work within me, through me, to become a better person. And how I'm going to do that? I'm going to pray. I'm going to read his word. I'm going to also follow the things. And I know we didn't talk about this, but some of the things, some of the times, what you need to do is find some persons who are going to mentor you. And so, yes, I'm going to look out for a person who are doing the things that I want to do. And so today I want to encourage someone out there to follow people, to actually see, well, exactly what it is. Because I am out there, I'm encouraging, if there are students out there who are failing, who have been told that they can't, I want you to know that you can reach out to me on Facebook, because I want you to know, if Ricardo Deveaux can come from a failing student, you can do it too. That is a guarantee. You can do it too. As long as we are alive, we still have an opportunity to become the better person. And so I encourage anyone out there, reset and begin today anew. Reset.
Excellent. Thank you so much for Ricardo for being such a wonderful example of the power of process. And thank you for all that you do for the Bahamas, for the young people, for all of the organizations that you are a part of. Certainly, you're a stellar example that it's not where you start, it's how you finish.
Yes.
And we thank you so much for your time today, Ricardo.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lloyd. Thank you very much, Mr. Beckles. And out there, do it. Just as Nike say, just do it. And so again, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Awesome. Have a great day.
Okay, y'all too. Bye.
All right. Well, we're on the home stretch. We have a 1-minute break, and then we're on with our third dynamic, prolific, amazing speaker. And oh yes, I love this person who is coming up. I love the other two as well, but I love her too. All right, so let's just go to our break and then we'll be right back. congratulations to our RISE
Her
award-winning
Excellency Leslia Brice,
person
Ambassador to
and
Caricom,
Leslia.
Member of Parliament for Seabreeze. As General Manager and Director of Marketing of Mario's Bowling and Family Entertainment Palace, Leslia Brice has received numerous awards and recognition for her work across wide sections of the Bahamian community. In 2018, she was recognized as one of the country's most successful and influential professionals under 40 for her academic achievement, professional success, and community involvement. Leslia Brice has led a number of charitable initiatives, including Paint the Lanes Pink for breast cancer awareness, and in 2014, she was honored as a spokesperson at the Red Rose Ball in Grand Bahama, promoting awareness of HIV and AIDS. As a founding member of What Women Want, she is especially proud of her work teaching young women about branding, empowerment, entrepreneurship, self-respect, and financial literacy. Ladies and gentlemen, Her Excellency Leslia Brice.
I just love that. It is just so wonderful to have with us such esteemed guests in our midst. It's just simply amazing. Her Excellency, you know I love you, ma'am. I love the title and your smile. You're such an amazing woman, such an excellent example. And we're so delighted to have you with us today. And it's so amazing to me that someone you look young and vibrant, but you have accomplished so much. And I am just so thankful that you're here to speak to our audience today about your process, because they see the beauty and they see the accomplishments, but many people don't understand the sacrifice and the process to get there. And so can you just describe for us your process as we welcome you to our RISE conference, Your Excellency?
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Please forgive me for my background. I started my Christmas holiday distribution in the Seabreeze community last night, and my team and I are up very early this morning to continue distribution. So I had actually asked one of the residents if I could sit on their front porch. And then I was like, let me just sit in my car so that I can do this interview. So forgive me, I am in the car, and under no circumstance could I have missed this opportunity to share my story. So I just wanted to start with that.
It's incredible to
Yes.
have you, because I think that it is so fitting that you're actually in your car doing what you do best, and that is actually showing love and compassion to the community. Because sometimes we often forget that even though people may bestow titles on us and call us all manner of things, it still comes down to the heart and the passion. And so the fact that you're in your car doing what you do best is absolutely a very, very good spot. A lot of people don't realize it, and as Siobhan was saying, it's so incredible to have you. But you know, I remember the first time that I met you, we were exchanging, and then you were having your twins, and I remember just talking to you about the process of having twins, and I would, you know, we used to have these great exchanges, and then all of a sudden, here you are, years later, and we're back together again, and since we're talking about process, you've had an incredible journey thus far, one that a lot of people look up to you, but the truth of the matter is very few people get to hear your side of the story and how your process has impacted you and gotten to this point. And so tell us a little bit about the process that this young woman has gone through to get where she is. Talk to us about that journey.
Well, I'm so happy that you mentioned my twins. They're going to be 11 in March.
Wow,
so that was a long time ago.
It was.
And then and then my oldest son is going to be 16 next month.
Congratulations.
So I'm not as, you know, people, I go to doors sometimes and they're like, but you're a little girl. And I said, no, I'm not as young as you think. I'm not as young as you
Carry
think.
yourself well.
My journey has truly began such a long time ago. And you know, you go through processes and you go through things and you really don't realize what it is that God is doing in your life. And not until later on in life, when you're able to look back at everything that you've accomplished, everything that you were interested in, your passions, you then realize, wow, God, you truly gave me a gift. And if it's one thing I'm thankful for, I'm thankful that I was able to find my purpose and to know who I am and why I'm here and why God created me. And while I'm here, I have an obligation to fulfill those duties for the kingdom. And so, you know, and Dr. Miles Monroe said it so many years ago that we have to understand our true purpose in life. And really, that is the only way that we will be able to fulfill everything that we are supposed to do while we're here on earth. My father, he has truly been an inspiration. He has guided me in so many ways. As a little girl, we were out, you know, campaigning with him. He was always in the political arena. And he would always take us with him. And I just couldn't understand on a Saturday morning when other kids are home watching cartoons, why was it that I had to be going door to door and saying hello and dropping off Christmas ham and turkeys? And, you know, it was, you know, of course I got angry and sometimes you didn't do it with a smile. But as the years progressed, I began to understand that he was teaching me how to love people. He was teaching me how to show compassion, like you said. He was teaching me what it is to be your brother's keeper. And of course, as you know, as teenagers, we're not understanding.
It doesn't resonate.
That's not, you know, that's not even on our radar. But as I look back, I am humbled and I am grateful for all of those things that he would have instilled with me. My mother, she is phenomenal. I mean, out of the back trunk of her Jeep, she has her own ministry, her homeless ministry. And every week she goes to the food store and she packs her car and all of the homeless people know her by name, Joycelyn. And, you know, she would stop and just give them what it is they need. And so I have been grounded by two amazing people who have truly taught me the meaning of life and, you know, what God expects us to do. And under no circumstance should you ever break that mold, because that is where your blessings sit. And I see it every day. Every day I see that the seeds of your parents fall on your children. Like, that is not a myth. It's not a that is the truth. That is really how life works. And so my journey has been long. I've not always been this kind of girl, you know, but I've grown into this light, you know, and I'm just happy. I'm excited to be out there doing what I can for our country. And I just plan to be here for a long time.
It's beautiful and exciting, right? You said something that's so important, in that you grew up with a very popular father, right? A man who was loved by many, and still is loved by many Bahamians. But you grew up in his shadow, and then at some point, you had to stop being Leslie Miller's daughter and become Leslia Miller. Talk to us about how that, you talked about the value of having strong parents and family values, which is great. It's a great foundation. But talk to us about when you had to get to that point in the road where you had to become you and kind of move out of the shade of your dad, not dismissing it, but the reality of becoming who you are.
You know, sometimes people see in us what we don't see in ourselves. And when many years, I guess about maybe 15, 16 years ago, when my father first decided that he wanted to build this entertainment center for families, And he said to my sister and I want you ladies to run this because this isn't for me. I don't plan to be here. I have a paint factory and I love selling paint. And I need you ladies to do this. And we looked at him like, us? There's no way that we can do that. Like, we need your help. And he said to us, I'm going to guide you for 1 year. And after that, you are on your own. And that is exactly what he did. Any decision that we made, he never changed it. You know, he never came and said, no, I don't think that's the right decision to make. He allowed us to grow in our mistakes. He allowed us to buck our toes, say ouch, and get right back, put your tennis shoes right back on and get right to it. And that is how I think I stepped out of being Leslie Miller's daughter. Because when you walked in there, you didn't see him. You saw me. You saw my sister. And so the decisions that I had to make as a female as well in business, you know, that was, I had to take on such a strong leadership role. We started out when we first opened with over 100 employees that my sister and I were responsible for. I didn't go to school for business. I graduated with a degree in something completely different, but I was able to learn and grow and make the mistakes and understand what it is to work with people and, you know, understand what it is to be a woman, like I say, in leadership. And, you know, a lot of his mannerisms I took on. I was very tough. I didn't fold up when things happened, no matter what the difficult situations came, and they did come. I just got it done. And under every circumstance, I just pushed and I just continued. And that is when I think I really stepped out from being his daughter into being my own, because he didn't give me a choice. And I think he knew exactly what he was doing and why he was doing it. But, you know, we had so much responsibility, and people, entrepreneurs and business owners, they have such a, oh, wow. It's so much on persons who have their own businesses, because you are responsible for feeding families. You are responsible for employees and ensuring that every Friday when they leave your place, that they have money in their hand to go and take care of their families. And that is a major responsibility. And so I'm sure that was when I stepped out from being his daughter.
Fantastic. You know, as we listen to you, it's easy to believe that you didn't have lessons to learn, that it was kind of the pathway was laid out for you, right? But there are a couple of things that you said that are so profoundly important to us at every stage of our lives. One, in that you developed a very strong relationship with your parents. And now you as a mother have a very strong relationship with your children. Talk to us a little bit about, no matter where we are, there's some of us on this call who may be adults and have children of our own, but may not be necessarily as aligned with our parents. Relationship may not be as strong as it ought to be or could be. Tell us why that's so important in terms of stability in life, because that's part of the process too.
That is a major part of the process, because my parents have been with me throughout. You know, as an athlete in high school, I remember my dad being at every basketball game, at every track meet. He was there. Any pageant or any extracurricular activity that I took part in, my mom, she played that role. Of course, you know, your daddies are not into the beauty pageants and stuff. And so I had that role as well. And my mom was there with me every step of the way. And that is how we produce amazing children.
Yeah.
by ensuring that we fall in love with what they are in love with. I think as parents, once we birth, the world no longer belongs to us, right? The focus is so true. And that's really, if you're serious about parenting, and if you're serious about parenting and grooming your children, you understand that you've lived, right? And as you continue to live, the dynamics change. Your children are now in charge and they're your little bosses. And you have to look at them and know that you want them to be great. You want them to have their rightful place in society. You want them to grow up as amazing citizens who will give back to their country and be the best that they can possibly be. And so, you know, I'm doing a balancing act, and I know that I'm doing the best that I can. But I ask them very, very often, is mommy doing the best that she can do? And it's good to have those open conversations with your children, because sometimes you think, oh, they're too young to understand. But babies are now, you know, when you give birth, they used to come with their eyes closed. Now their eyes are wide open. And it tells that everything has changed. So we can't take our little ones for granted and think that they don't understand, because they really do have a completely different understanding that we had when we were 10 years old. The world has changed, society has changed, social media has opened their eyes, the internet has opened their eyes, and so they're watching and they're reading, and their understanding is different. And you know, like I said, they are our little bosses. And if we want them to be good citizens and give back and understand what it is to go out there and work hard and be disciplined, that is something that we have to instill in them. Right. And there's no way of getting around it. That's the job of parents. That's the job of a mom. That's the job of a father. And, you know, during this holiday season, I would just like to take this opportunity to reach out and just say to some fathers, if you're on, mothers or fathers, if you're on this call, and, you know, sometimes mothers keep children away from their fathers for whatever reason, just, you know, during this holiday season, just try to push through any disagreements or any arguments and reach out to that child, because there are so many children out here that are just screaming for attention and love. And when they see other children getting that from their parents, it causes them to become bitter. And, you know, there's just so many things that we can change, small things, you know, nothing big, that will advance our society. Because there are some curves that we really have to, at this junction in our country's progress, there are some things that we definitely have to change.
Right. Well, let me say this. Thank you so much again. As we wrap up our time with you, right? Take away the titles, take away the success in business for a moment, and all the accolades that have been bestowed upon you. You're no longer an MP, you're no longer the ambassador. What's the one thing that drives you?
Oh, my love for people. My love for people. Honestly,
how am I not surprised?
Listen, my love for people. What I'm doing today, and I will continue to do, is something that my father taught me. And it's not many people that have the stamina, that have the way, that just would like to get it done. But I remember going with him. When I say door to door, I mean knocking on every single door. I have counted homes in my constituency. And I know you wanted me to just end with not being who I am, right? But I have over 3,000 doors. We've counted them on numerous occasions. Wow. And I have made a commitment I threw myself in the ring, that I would do what I see, what he's done. And every Christmas, he would go door to door to door. And I got that from him. And we started last night. We did about 600 doors. We got thousands more to go, right? And so today I'm going to continue. Yes, my legs hurt, my back hurts, right? But there is something when you show people that level of respect, right? Yeah. And he has truly taught me that, you know, that's the flow of your blessing.
Right.
That is when you really open doors to what is really in store for you. And my apologies, I just had to say that.
That's okay. You're doing well.
And,
you're doing well.
Listen, even with going to church, you know, my apostle said to me right after the election, "Oh, you have to sit to the front." I said, "Man, apostle, I don't want to sit to the front." And he had to make me understand that you have now stepped into a different role. But in my, he would say, in my humbleness and just, you know, trying to remain who I am and not get caught up in my role, I just would have preferred to sit where I always sit. But I am who I am. And I'm not going to change who I am. The titles won't change me. The position won't change me. The title in the front of my name won't change who I am, because in an instant, God can take all of those things away from you. And you go back to being the regular person that you were. And so my parents have always taught me humility and not to take on these titles and never to feel like you are ever better than anyone. He's always said to me, my dad has always said, if you cut yourself and you bleed red, and the person next to you cut themselves and they bleed red, you are not better than them.
Wow.
Under any circumstance. It doesn't matter, you know, the fact that you may have been gifted with more things, but to whom much is given, much is required. And that has been something that I've lived with for a very long time. And, you know, sometimes people would say, oh, she didn't have any struggles. Oh, she was born with a silver spoon. Listen, the struggles come with that. The battles are bigger with that. You have so much more to fight through and push through because people look at you in a certain way. But just know that whatever it is that I have, if I can give it back, I do that. And I do that every single day. I am going to remain who I am. I'm not going to change, because God will not bless me if I decide to be someone that I'm not.
Well, I am going to stop, because if I don't, listen.
Oh my God.
This reunion is fantastic. So I'm going to let Siobhan stop me, because we can talk all day. I enjoy this, right? Because you are who you are, and I love that.
I do. And listen, just one final question, because you are a phenomenal woman, and you talked about being a woman in leadership. Can you please give a piece of advice to women who aspire to leadership roles, and also to women who are in leadership roles? You know, what is it that they need to be doing to be successful?
Do not allow anyone to make you feel less than, right? We had a parliamentary conference seminar this week, and we had someone on from Finland. And in their Finland parliamentary, they have 6 parties in Finland, and all are run by women. We are truly the future. Women are the future, and we have to do it collectively, though. And it's not to push men to the side at all or anything like that, but we just got to drive, and women have a passion, and that's just the way that God created us. And, you know, sometimes we want to feel like, I'm not sure if I should, or, and you've been in it, because I've heard you talk about it. I've heard you talk about how you had to push your way through and knock down doors and break these barriers and knock down the glass ceiling. Well, listen, we We have 7 women in parliament, and we knocked down those doors and we kicked them open. We didn't just turn the knob. We kicked them down and said, we're here, right? And I want to encourage other women out there that may not, have the confidence. Listen, you can do it. You just have to believe in yourself and know that you're on this earth for a reason. God did not put you here to be what you are not created to be. And you just have to do it. Find the willpower to do it. But most important, you have to get around other women who are succeeding in every area of our nation. Banking, tourism, everywhere you look, the insurance companies. Who is at the top? The women. And that's not by chance. It's not by chance. It's the fact that we're just being bold enough and strong enough to say, I am not letting anything stop me anymore. I know what's in me. I know what I'm capable of doing. And I'm not just going to sit on the side. I'm coming to the table. And listen, when we get around that table, it's going to be very hard to move us, right? Because we are movers and shakers. That is what we do. That's why God decided to take that rib from Adam. And he said, you must not be alone. We need women here to support you. And so, yes, as we are here to support, we're also here to lead, right?
Yes.
And we do it so well. We do it well.
By the way, is she excited?
Yes, and I love it. I love it. And I agree with you, Jeff. That car, it speaks of movement. It speaks of progress. Leslie, you couldn't have been in a better place, yes, because that is what it's representing: movement, progress, getting to the top, leading the way. And we are so delighted. Oh my God, we count it such an honor and a privilege.
I think being yourself is you did that in such a way this morning, Leslia, that I think it's powerful for all of us, the power of being confident and being yourself. And I tell people all the time, I've never met anybody I want to be other than me. And you demonstrated that in such a clear way this morning. So we're all encouraged by that. And the level of excitement, the level of passion certainly cannot be ignored. Yes. And I hope that somebody's passion, somebody has been encouraged this morning to stand up. You may not, again, yes, you may not be asked to run a marathon, right? But if you would just stand up and be confident and thankful that you are you and be the best you can be, I think today would have made that, if that's the only lesson that somebody learned, then today was worth every minute. So thank you so much. And we look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Excellent job. Oh my goodness. People,
so
can you
let me now put my Santa hat back on and head back on the road.
Excellent.
You're an excellent ambassador. Ambassador for women, ambassador for the Bahamas, ambassador for the kingdom. You're an excellent example. Thank you so much for being here with us.
God bless.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye. Oh, there you have it, folks. We have had an amazing day with an amazing lineup of persons who have demonstrated in their personal lives the effectual power of process. How can we say thanks enough to Her Excellency Leslia Miller-Brice for the amazing passion she demonstrates in every aspect of her life? And thank you to Mr. Ricardo Deveaux, our Deputy Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Education. How can we say thanks enough for the philanthropy and the work that he has done in the community with the young people, with older people, wherever he has found his place in, he has tried to take the lead and doing an excellent job. And then who started us off today was with our Honorable Minister of Youth, Sports and Culture, the Honorable Mario Bowleg. What an amazing time it has been. And can you believe it? Just that fast, our time together is ended. It has been amazing. Wow. Special thanks to my co-host, an amazing Managing Director of Island Pay, Mr. Jeffrey Beckles. And special thanks to our engineer extraordinaire, Cordero Fernando. He has done an amazing job this year as well as last year. Our radio announcer, Regina Miller, thank you so much. Our studio producing with lighting, Toriano Lloyd, thank you so much. And you, our participants and audience who have joined us, you have just been phenomenal. You've been blowing up the chat. We've seen you with your nuggets that you've been receiving and just the inspiration and empowerment that you're leaving this session with. It is your time to arise. It is your time to walk out in purpose and progress from where you are to where you are supposed to be. So thank you so much again for being a part of this Arise Virtual Conference 2021, and look forward to seeing you next year as we arise together in 2022. Jeff, thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, and have a fantastic morning. Merry Christmas and a most
Merry
prosperous
Christmas.
year. All the best.
God bless you all.
Bye-bye
Take
for now.
care. Bye-bye for now.